What's up, guys? It's Benches, and welcome to Super Mario Bros. 3. Quite possibly my favorite video game of all time. This one right here. And we are continuing on with the Super Mario Retrospective, and we've landed on quite possibly my absolute favorite game of all time. So, much like I have been in the prior episodes of the Retrospective, we're going to be playing a little bit of the game. I'm going to reminisce and talk about just the fun things and fond memories I have of the game, as well as some information about the game as well. So hopefully you guys will sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. So first thing I got to talk about, for those of you who don't know, when this game was originally announced, it wasn't leaked on the internet, because at the time there wasn't really an internet, and it wasn't leaked on television, it wasn't leaked on magazines or anything like that. It was leaked pretty much in a film. That's right. The first time anyone ever got their eyes on this game was in the old 1989 movie. I believe it came out in 1989, but it was an old 80s movie called The Wizard. It was a movie starring Fred Savage. It had Christian Slater in it, and a couple other actors I can't remember off the top of my head. But the movie itself, it had this really cheesy story about two kids trying to go back to their foster parent, leave their foster parents, and go back with their real dad, and they're basically on the run from the social workers that are trying to take them back. And along this journey, Fred Savage's character discovers that his little brother is surprisingly really, really good at Nintendo games. It's like it's insane how good he is. So they go on to this adventure, trying to just go back, but then they discover in like this flyer in a magazine about a video game tournament that's being held. That's called Video Game Armageddon. And he basically says, my brother's really good, I'm going to take him to this competition, we're going to win, get the money so we can go back and be with our family. So they go on that adventure. And through this entire adventure, the one thing that you can realize from the minute this movie starts, is that this movie is nothing but, and I repeat, nothing but a humongous, large commercial for Nintendo. Because there are so many things about Nintendo in this movie. Like, they show them in the arcade playing, like, Double Dragon. They show them talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES. They talk about Rad Racer. They talk about Ninja Gaiden. It's just, like, there's so many segments in the movie where there's video games in it. And, like, because again, I saw this movie in the theater. And the only thing that I remembered to myself is, like, during the parts of where they were just talking about, like, the plot of the movie and the stories and everything, I'm like, this is so boring, I don't care, I just want to see the video games. So, it was one of those things, like, any point in that movie where you would see games, you were excited. You're just like, oh. Like, there's, like, a small scene where they show, like, a clip from Mega Man 2, and I'm just like, ooh, I know that one. That's Airman stage, and it's... And it's just like, those were the small little nuggets in that movie that just made you really, really, really like it. And I remember also that this movie was also the first introduction to the well sought after, well tested, and always 100% functional Power Glove that had the famous line that a lot of people remember: "I love the Power Glove. It's so bad." Yeah, that was where that quote came from. So you know, like some T-shirts that you see on like those one-day only T-shirt websites where you see like a skull with a Power Glove and it says "so bad." That's why. That's the reference where it comes from. And but yeah, so pretty much I'm watching this movie. When they show games, I'm excited. When they're not showing games, I'm bored. I'm bored. So it gets to I'm gonna spoil this movie, by the way. So and again, the movie came out in like the 80s. So if you haven't seen it yet, tough. So yeah, they get to the competition, and they're playing, they're doing stuff or whatever, and it's honestly, it's almost kind of like, it's almost like what I really wish esports were. Like the way they did this competition in this movie, and I'm just like, God, I would love to be in one of those. I would love to just sit and watch one of those because it was so exciting. And so it gets to the end, and here I am as a kid. I'm watching this movie because I remember going to this movie because it was not my mom, my grandma actually took me to see this movie. So we're watching this and everything like that, and it gets to the final scene of the movie. Where they're at the final stretch, and then there's like, okay, and now for the final game, and it's like, it's all like over the top, like just pyro and everything like that, and then the announcer pretty much says, it's like, and now the children will play a game that they've never played before, and I'm like, wait, what the f is going on? Well, like as a kid would. Anyway, let me rephrase that. So I'm like, alright, okay, they're going to play a game that has never been seen before. And here I'm thinking they're just going to make up some mock game or whatever, like some movies do. Is like, oh, they're playing like Bloodsport 13 or something like that. And so it's like, it's got my attention, I'm paying attention. And then the announcer says, Super Mario Brothers 3! And I'm like, holy sh... I lost it. I lost my freaking mind when he said Mario 3. Because once he says it, like these two giant doors slide open, and then you see the title screen for Super Mario Brothers 3. And then, because I wasn't the only kid in the theater. There were other kids in the theater. They're like, we were losing it, man. We were just like, oh my god! Because it's like... basically, it's showing this game that nobody knew anything about. We didn't know that there was another Mario game in the works. We didn't know that there was a third one happening. But this movie showed it off for the very first time. And we're over here, we are glued. We are glued to this movie theater screen. Because everything we're paying attention to, the first world, the first couple enemies, the first time you see like the raccoon tail and everything like that, and the fact that Mario can fly now. And then you're seeing this, and it's blowing your mind, and you're just like, oh my god, this is incredible! And then I'm over here watching it, and one of the things that kind of got to me about this, there's a scene in the movie when they're playing the game, like, he's in the castle, like in the first castle, because you know in the first castle, you can actually use, like, the feather, fly up, and you can get the warp whistle, you can get that. But in the movie... Well, the girl that's actually with Fred Savage and his brother through the movie, she points that out. She's like, that's the secret warp whistle. You can use that to warp to new areas. The only thing that got to me is like, how the f did she know this if the game's not even out yet? There's no hints and tricks or tips or anything like that. So like, how did they know that? So I felt like they kind of delivered that a little weird, but nonetheless, everybody who saw that scene remembered that when you got the game. It's like, oh yeah, like in the movie, if you fly up there, there's the whistle. You can use the whistle and you can go to another part of the part of it. So it was crazy to see that for the first time. And like the only thing I remember talking about with my grandma is when we left the theater is how much it's like, oh my god, I can't believe there's a third one coming out. I can't wait to play it. I'm so excited. I really want to play it. She's like, oh yes, I'm really happy. My grandma was just playing along because you know she didn't play video games. She didn't know. She didn't understand why I was excited for it. She was just happy the fact that I was excited about something. She was there for me. She was just like, I'm glad to see this is making you so happy. So she was all for it. And so the one thing I wanted to do, I wanted to make sure that I got a copy of this game. I wanted to make sure that nothing stopped me from getting a copy of this game. But I took it upon myself this time. This was the first time where I'm just like, I am going to buy this game myself. This is going to be what I do. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy this game myself. And I straight up, for I think it took me like a month. It took me like a month to save up enough money to get this, because I took every precaution possible to save money for this. I cut people's yards. I raked leaves in yards. I washed people's vehicles. I carried groceries for older people. I would collect every bottle cap, every can, every glass bottle that I have, and I would recycle them to see if I can make any money off of it. Dude, I went through the ringer to save up money for this game. And I remember going to the store with my wad of money, and like, I would like a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3, please. And then I put my money on the counter, and it's, again, because I don't have a wallet because I'm a child, so I put it on the counter, and he's like, all right. And then he goes over there, he grabs a copy of it and brings it over to me, and he's like, here you go. And I'm like, this will be the moments of my life. This will be everything I've ever worked for. And it was such a crazy bigger feeling for me, because this was like the first video game I've ever purchased myself. So of course I'm like overly excited, and I'm just like, I can't wait. Mother Pfeiffer, I can't believe I just died right there. Anyway, so I'm excited. I can't wait to play it. And this is how I know that at times Mother Nature can hate you. The only reason why I say that is because when I got home, I go into my living room, pop the game in the NES, turn it on, and as soon as the title screen hits, my power goes out. My power goes out because there's a nasty thunderstorm going on and everything like that, and the power goes out and I can't play it. And I'm thinking, okay, the power's only out for a little bit, it'll be back soon and I can play. The power didn't come back on for like 12 hours. It didn't come back on for like 12 hours. And because I'm a kid, I don't have a set time when I'm like, oh, I'll just stay up all night and play it. Nah, when you're a kid, you have a bedtime. So I'm over here, I'm like, all right, I get to play, and my mom's like, no, you can't play, it's time for bed, you have to go to school tomorrow. I'm like, no. So I'm over here flipping out and everything like that. And so I go to school the next day, and I remember that all of my friends, because this is what I miss about video games in general. I miss like going to like school or going to work, and just people who are playing the same game you do, and they're all just talking about it. They're all just talking about like the secrets they find, or like the secret, like the fun hard levels that they're playing, or something like that. And it's just like, I miss that so much, because like I get with my friends and they've all been playing it, and it's like, dude, yeah, did you know in like World 4, if you stand on the block for like 10 seconds, you'll go through the floor and you can find another secret hidden whistle? And they're like, no way. And I'm just like, I'm hearing all this and I'm like, I haven't even played the game yet. And so this is the part of this where it gets a little emotional, and why this game's so important to me. So I go home that day, and I'm excited. I do the right thing. I get home, I do my homework, because that's the main thing. You always do your homework before you play any of your games. That was my mom's rule. You stupid Koopa Troopa. Anyway, so I go there. I do my homework, and then I'm gonna start playing. I'm gonna start playing and everything like that. And crap. And after I get done, I go into the living room, and I'm about to start playing, and I see that my parents are on the couch. They're like talking and everything like that. And my mom actually looks fairly upset. She looks really bummed out. And I'm like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? What's the matter? And then they're just telling me, he's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't even think about it. And I'm like, okay. And so since they were in the living room, I didn't really want to be in there playing video games and everything like that, because it looked like they were like something was going on. So really Koopa Troopa. Anyway, so I kind of just go back to my room, and I just kind of just just mess around in my room for a little bit, and then I kind of hear in the background, I can hear my parents talking, and I just, the one thing I hear is that my grandma's sick, and I got freaked out. I'm like, well, is she okay? Is there everything wrong? And everything like that, and so I go into the living room where my parents are, and I say, what's wrong with grandma, and everything like that. And then it's like, well, we didn't want you to hear about it, but since you know now, we can tell you. And apparently my grandma had a very severe case of leukemia, and she wasn't doing so hot. And that was one of the reasons why she was wanting to spend a lot more time with me, my sister, and my younger brother at the time, because my brother was just like born and everything like that. And, so I'm over here thinking to myself, like, is she gonna be okay? Is everything gonna be okay? Like, what's gonna happen? And then it's just like, yeah, we have to just wait and see what happens. So like a few days pass, and my parents tell me, hey, we want to let you know that we're going to take you to see your grandma. You're going to go to her house and you're going to spend some time with her. And I'm like, and they just basically break it down for me. They say, like, we don't know how much longer she has, and we want to make sure that you get the chance to spend some time with her before she's not here anymore. And that really hit me like crazy. It's like, wow, that's a lot to take in. So we get there. I get there to the house, and because my grandma just lived like right next door to me. She it's not like she lived in like another state or anything like that. She lived like right next door. And so I go there, and I can tell as soon as I walk through the door, I can tell that she's sick. She looks like she's just not. She's hurting all over. She's not feeling well. And I go over to her, and I'm like, "Are you okay? Are you okay, Grammy? Are you okay?" And then she's like, "I'm fine. Don't worry. It'll be okay." And I'm like, okay. So she's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. What can we do? She's like, and this was like the thing that like still to this day like sticks with me. And she looks over to me. She's like, well, you got your new game, right? And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And it's like, well, have you played it? How do you like it? And she would just ask me things about it. And I told her I haven't had much of a chance to play it yet. And she looks over at me. She's like, I tell you what, go next door, go get it, bring it over here, and I'll play it with you. And I'm like, really? You want to play the game with me? She's like, yeah, we'll play the game together. And god dang it, man, this is actually kind of difficult to talk about now. Now that I'm actually saying it and stuff like it, it's kind of emotional. So I go ahead, I go back to my house, I grab my NES, I grab 2 controllers and my copy of Mario 3, and then I go back to my grandma's house, and I pop it in, the title screen pops up, and everything like that, and we hit start, and we hit 2 players, and we just start playing. Like, I picked Mario, my grandma picked Luigi, and I remember as soon as the first world pops up, and I remember exactly what she said. She's like, "Oh, I really like the music. I really like the music in this game. It's fun. I like it." And for that whole day, all I did was play Super Mario Bros. 3 with my grandma, and it was pretty much the most interesting, fun experience I've ever had with this game. And it sticks with me forever, because literally the day after we played, she had to go to the hospital, and I had to stay with my aunt because we weren't allowed to go. And then, as I think a little bit after that day had passed, my parents came home, and then they broke the news to us that, like, sadly, my grandma had passed away. And it was hard, man, because I was able to share an experience with her that to this day sticks with me. For, like, that's a moment that will stick with me for the rest of my life, because of how much I love this game, and two, because of that amazing experience I had with her, that for as long as I'm here, I will stick with me forever. And it's just, it's tough, man. It's like, even now, even talking about it now, because that was a long time, man. I was a kid when that happened. But it's one of those things that it's just, this game, although, like, most people is like, well, doesn't that make you sad every time you play this game? Honestly, no, it doesn't. That's the good thing about a game like this. It's a memory that I will cherish forever, and it's because I like this game so much that it reminds me of that good moment. It doesn't remind me of, like, the sad moment afterward, where things are at their darkest point. It reminds me of the fun and the happiness I felt during that time. And I feel like that's the best way to kind of look at this. Like, because yes, it was a tragedy and it was sad and everything like that, but the most important thing I look at is how it made me feel during that time. How great it was to share that moment with her and everything like that. And it's something that, like, still to this day will stay with me, like, forever, man. And it's a cool feeling. It's a cool feeling, and I couldn't ask for a cooler final moment with somebody I really, really care about. So yeah, it was a really touching moment, man. And it's one thing that helps me not only appreciate this game even more, but helps me just understand why Mario and this franchise means so much to me. Because there's always a good memory behind a lot of these games, and this is definitely one of the ones that I feel sticks with me the most and continuously reminds me why this is my favorite game of all time. Because it's not only just a fun game, a timeless game, but it's also a very sentimental game for me. And I think that's the best reason to look at it. So, the question I have for you folks watching this retrospective, do you guys have a game or something like that you remember very, 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 very vividly and everything like that, that reminds you of a special time or a special memory or a special moment in your life, that anytime that you're reminded of it, that's what it helps you remind you of, and it makes you love it even more? I'd love to hear that. And I'm sorry I got a little sappy and a little emotional about it, but, you know, what can you do? But I think that'll do it for this episode of the Mario Retrospective. And I hope you folks enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys learned a little something extra about me. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one, and in the next one we're hopping into the 16-bit era, and we are playing Super Mario World. It's gonna be a good time. So until then, guys, this was Super Mario Bros. 3. I've been Benchez. Love all your faces. Be nice to everybody out there, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later!